A girl rushes down the stairs on a Monday morning, hair disheveled and books spilling out of her book bag. Her mom yells at her, "The bus is coming in 5 minutes." While pouring a glass of orange juice, the girl claims tardiness runs in the family. Her mother argues that if she had a proper routine she followed, she wouldn't be in this situation. Midway the long rant, the student accidentally spills orange juice on the same spot her mother did a week ago. While her daughter rushes out the door, the mother starts to question herself. Is it in fact nature or nurture that influenced her daughter's lack of organization? Situation aside, let's explore this century-long debate, nature or nurture, which has a bigger impact on our identity, behavior, and personality. Firstly, let's tackle the possibility of nature being involved. Everybody's personality is different. This is proved to be linked to our genetics in a way. Genes primarily influence 5 main personality traits: extroversion or introversion, neuroticism, in other words, pessimism, open-mindedness, agreeableness, and consciousness. In a 2014 study conducted by Stephanie M. Vandenberg on more than 29,000 pairs of twins, neuroticism and extroversion are around 48% heritable. This study suggests that DNA plays a big role in our mental health. Further studies prove that our personality is polygenetic, meaning it involves many small genetic differences that interact with one another. No single gene has officially been linked to a specific personality trait yet to argue against this. Other than personality, genes can also affect our mental health by the heritability of mental illnesses from our parents, which is what we call genetic predisposition. The name explains itself. It signifies the likelihood of receiving a passed-down disease by DNA. Genetic predisposition can be affected if environmental factors come into play. They can either worsen disease or reduce its development. Some people have this certain gene, but it can stay asleep if it's never triggered. Examples include ADHD, schizophrenia, and bipolar disorder, all with a heritability of 70 to 80%. Clearly, genes have an impact on our behavior. Let's face it, we're always told that we act like our father or our mother. Yet, this doesn't stop people from thinking that we're born as a clean slate. Let's take a look at a real-life example that might prove this theory wrong. This case is widely known as the Jim twins case. James Jim Springer and James Jim Lewis were born in Ohio in 1940 as identical twins. They got adopted as babies by different families, both living in different cities in Ohio. When they were reunited in 1979 on the Phil Donahue Show, thanks to Jim Lewis's curiosity, they realized that even if they live different lives, they are scarily similar. For one, they were both named James by their adopted families, who had no connection to each other. They also both went into law enforcement, as a security guard and sheriff. The twins each have a son, both being named James Allen, as well as a dog, both being named Toy. They got married twice, first to a Linda, then to a Betty, hopefully to different women. In response to this phenomenon, the University of Minnesota conducted a study on 137 pairs of twins, with results showing that identical twins are more likely to have similarities between them. Moving on to the nurture side, it is evident that we all come from different backgrounds, including our social status and influence of friends and family. Social status, or more generally socioeconomic status, includes revenue, privilege, social class, and education. Psychologically wise, this explains a big part of someone's behavior. Having an abundance of these elements suggests a happier life and mindset. People of higher class network easily and have less worries, whereas having a lower socioeconomic status signifies a lack of resources. These people often suffer from poverty and a lack of aid and education. This results in rebellion and having to grow up quickly to take on responsibilities, such as working at a young age. Whatever the circumstances are, everybody comes to face peer pressure in their life. It surrounds us and influences who we are. Peer pressure is the influence of a group on somebody affiliated with them, who wouldn't participate in their activities or agree with their beliefs. First serious encounters of peer pressure start in childhood and adolescence, due to the lack of self-identification. Peer pressure varies from being influenced to buying new dress to taking part in illegal activity. It has definitely worsened with the rise of social media, promoting beauty standards and the new cool thing to do. Theoretically wise, peer pressure can be spoken or unspoken, meaning verbally being asked to conform or feeling the need to. It can also be direct or indirect, in a spoken or unspoken demanding way versus an implied way. But peer pressure isn't always negative. It can be positive or negative. It changes your ways, but that could be for the better. Though common consequences of negative peer pressure include depression, rebellion, and distancing from family and friends who don't agree with said group, then why do people fall into peer pressure? It's simply because they lack self-esteem, they're curious, and they have a fear of rejection. The biggest factor of peer pressure is arguably family dynamics. This term describes the interaction between family members. Not every family follows the traditional father-mother-child structure. There are 5 big types of family structures: nuclear, extended, single-parent, step-families, and childless families. Starting with nuclear families. The traditional family where both parents are present. It is the said healthiest family, though that depends on the parent styles that I'll talk about later. Next, any family becomes extended when a relative joins the dynamic. It seems like an even better family, since it strengthens the sense of unity. However, it becomes difficult and suffocating in a child's eyes when there are more parental figures than 2, especially when the adults are arguing. Following with single-parent families, who are becoming more and more common in this day and age. There is a strong parent-child bond, and the parent is viewed as a role model to the child for their resilience and sacrifices. Though it might seem frustrating to a child to see all their friends with nuclear families, the real burden is on their mother or father. They have to take on the responsibilities of 2 people, often working overtime and looking for babysitters constantly. Now, let's tackle step-families, the most complicated family dynamic on the list. It can seem like a wholesome idea to assemble 2 broken families together, but getting to that happy family feeling takes time. The children are the ones who grieve their biological parent and resent the other party. This parent can also be involved in co-parenting their biological child, which makes it even harder for said child to switch family dynamics. Following the most complicated family dynamic comes the most simplest one: childless families. Many don't even consider them as family. They have little worries. They have a stable income, a strong relationship, and a lot of free time. That being said, as they grow older, they may regret not having children to take care of them, leading to depression and interdependence. Children with trauma mostly come from step-families and single-parent families, since they often experience a falling out or grief with a parent. The family is tarnished with arguments following these experiences. Another element that defines how a family functions is parenting styles: authoritarian, permissive, authoritative, and neglectful. Authoritarian parenting is also known as strict parenting, where parents set up high expectations and limit reassurance and help. Children of these parents often suffer from mommy and daddy issues and lack emotional intelligence. The opposite of this parenting style is permissive parenting, with a lack of discipline and expectations. These parents spoil their children with gifts and reassurance. The perfect balance between these 2 is authoritative parenting, where boundaries and expectations are set, but children receive support and care. According to Pamela Lee, a parenting specialist, authoritative parenting is considered the most balanced and effective parenting style by developmental psychologists. The only possible issue with this parenting style affects the parents, who try to balance both of these elements for their child, to know their responsibilities without fearing failure. Neglectful parenting is the extreme case of traumatized children. Their parents often are going through something themselves, like a mental disorder or an addiction, giving no care to their children. In result, the children have no guidance on what to do and have extreme emotional detachment issues. This parenting style brings us to the case of Jeannie, the feral child. Jeannie Wiley was born in California in 1957. Throughout her childhood, she was tied and beaten by her father. On November 4th, 1970, in Los Angeles, a social worker found her and saved her from the horrific conditions she was living in. In result, her parents were charged with abuse, but her father took his own life the day before court. Jeannie weighed 59 pounds, she couldn't walk normally, she barely talked and was unable to chew. She only recognized her name and the word sorry. She had the mental abilities of a 1-year-old. Psychologists took care of her for rehabilitation. She learned how to dress herself and use the toilet alone. She loved going outside, drawing, and playing the piano, still having speech issues. Experts who were interested in her case argued over being her caregiver and guardian. She finally got reunited with her mother, but not long after, she got thrown from foster home to foster home, getting abused again. When she returned to the hospital, doctors realized all her progress disappeared. Her mom sued the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles for testing the girl too much. Later, psychiatrist Jay Shirley visited her on her 27th and 29th birthdays. At both occasions, she was depressed and silent. Today, she is supposedly living in an adult care home in California. In the aftermath, Jeannie never learned how to speak properly. She never got to experience the childhood that we all had. When she was rescued from her conditions, she got treated like a lab rat by specialists who just wanted to profit off of her. This case further proves that environmental influences stem from childhood, from family dynamics, peer pressure, and socioeconomic status. All of these factors explain trauma, which influences neuroplasticity. The neuroplasticity narrative explains reasons behind trauma, and that it's just a human response to harmful experiences. Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's ability to adapt to experiences, while developmental plasticity refers to individuals with similar genes developing differently when facing different environments. They both result in changes in the brain according to experiences. These changes signify different reactions to stress and emotions, becoming more intense according to trauma. As seen previously, there is certainly a link between nature and nurture. They meet at epigenetics, a process that controls if genes are turned off or on without changing the DNA sequence itself. Epi meaning over in Greek, and genetics meaning in relation to genes, a segment of DNA that gives specific instructions to cells. Outside factors can influence our genes based on our nutrition, exercise level, and resources that affect chemicals. Studies prove that they have a link to the mind, such as Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, and other mental disabilities. Causes that create epigenetic marks that turn on or off genes include diet during pregnancy, drug abuse, stress, and childhood trauma. Epigenetics is a fairly new study, but it has the possibility to explain many phenomena. Intelligence also links nature and nurture, starting from a young age when we mutter our first word. Language acquisition refers to the developmental and comprehension of language. Language acquisition psychology involves the interaction between biological and environmental factors that impact how the brain solves problems and processes information. There are three main ideologies regarding brain development. Chomsky, an American linguist, came up with a universal language theory, which suggests we were born with an innate ability to comprehend and process language. Contrary to this idea, behaviorist B.F. Skinner argues that language is picked up through imitation and repetition. If a child is surrounded by a rich and proper language, he or she will easily master it. Jerome Bruner, an American psychologist, concluded that it's a mix of Chomsky's and Skinner's theories. Children are born with the ability to follow linguistic rules and develop their language skills by listening and communicating. We also have to take into account memory, selective attention, and motivation. Language development is divided into 3 stages based on age: pre-linguistic stage, early linguistic stage, and late linguistic stage. From 0 to 12 months, babies start blabbering, developing their motor skills. From 12 to 18 months, they start saying their first words and learn vocabulary. From 18 months and onwards, toddlers are able to create sentences and expand their vocabulary. Of course, every child learns differently. We can't ignore that genetically, some have pragmatic and mental difficulties, meaning having issues picking up on social cues and processing information effectively. Later on, these children will attend school, where they will develop their intelligence, their capacity to adapt and understand abstract concepts. Early on, Sir Francis Galton argued that intelligence was mostly genetic and hard to change. Most recent theories suggest that intelligence depends on multiple biological and environmental factors, and that it doesn't just involve problem solving and comprehension. People can be intelligent music-wise, people-wise, etc. According to the findings of Cattle R.B., an American psychologist, intelligence can be divided into 2 categories. On one hand, fluid intelligence is mostly biological, being able to solve problems without prior knowledge on the situation. On the other hand, crystallized intelligence is mostly environmental, using knowledge and experience acquired from day-to-day life, including being surrounded by a safe environment and educated teachers. Regarding my personal opinion, after my extensive research, I've come to my own conclusion that nature and nurture both impact us in different ways. I'd say that nature is the foundation of our personality, but what's important is the interaction between both sides. Living in different environments can turn on and off certain genes. Your DNA doesn't automatically define who you are. Even with diseases, you can achieve anything you put your mind to. Your intelligence, beauty, and situation can always change. It's all about thinking positively and healing from our trauma. No matter what a study shows, I personally think that it's all in the mind. One of the reasons I even wanted to do this video is to spread awareness to mental health. Everybody lives with different lifestyles based on their birthplace, their financial situation, their abilities, etc., which can be discouraging. What matters is how you live your life. You can either choose to stay sad all your life, blaming God for your situation, or you can live life to the fullest, regardless of your starting point. Returning back to the initial situation, I can conclude that said girl's actions are the result of nature and nurture. Based on everything that was said today, she inherited her mother's clumsiness, but that doesn't stop her from organizing herself better. This little made-up story is just something off the top of my head, but it truly makes us reflect on our own experiences. Have you ever personally experienced a nature versus nurture situation yourself? Do you also think that you resemble your parents, or maybe somebody else with no blood relation?